Hey guys, and welcome to issue number 3. Issue number 3 in our 6-issue mini-series of the comic Star Trek: The Next Generation by DC Comics. So we've covered the first story, which was a standalone, and we've covered the second story, which was the Christmas issue, really weird. And we have 4 more to go. Issues 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this, issue 3, is the start of a 4-issue arc, basically. So these aren't standalone stories. This is basically a 4-parter, beginning with this comic. So we have an epic story ahead of us, beginning with this comic and ending at number 6. So here's another example of a dynamic DC cover, because we've got this mysterious figure who you're very soon going to realize who that is. You might even have a guess as to who it is now. But we have a very interesting image of the Con and Ops panels, and Picard looking as jacked as usual. You'll notice again once we get into this comic that, again, they're all very buff and they've been working out in the holodeck and in the gyms. I think it was just a product of the times, just to make the comic more dynamic. But anyway, let's start issue 3, which in this case is called Q Factor. And Q is featured prominently in this issue. As you can see, there he is with his hand around the front of the Enterprise there with its fabulous artwork. So the story starts with the Enterprise on their way to a planet called Thaltos, I believe. And while they're on their way, in the hallways, we have Tasha hunting this mysterious figure through the hallways of the Enterprise. She catches up to this individual and blasts him with her phaser. And of course, it's Wesley, who drops like a stone. But it's a fake out. Wesley quickly gets up and blasts Tasha. Of course, they're just horsing around. Their phasers are probably set to tickle at this point. And they immediately get reprimanded by Captain Picard, who slags them off for horsing around, especially Tasha. I mean, she's the head of security. She should know better than to be fooling around in the corridors of the Enterprise. But anyway, as they're walking to sickbay, Wesley asks her if she had any friends when she was his age. And she goes on, a bit of an origin story with Tasha that her life wasn't very good. And she was, they don't say it, but there were rape gangs and it's just slums, basically, where she was, until she joined Starfleet, of course. And Starfleet saved her. So she was basically saved by joining Starfleet. And meanwhile, on the bridge, they have come across this very strange-looking alien ship, basically unlike anything they've ever seen before. Apparently no life signs aboard. Not answering hails, obviously, either audio or visually. And it seems to be a derelict, mysterious ship that they've never seen before. So Picard decides to send an away team with Tasha, Riker, and 2 of Tasha's security men to actually beam aboard the ship to see what's going on. And actually here in the transporter room, it's interesting because Tasha says to lock in the coordinates, Ensign Turner. And Ensign Turner, I guess, is a female alien. This was before, before O'Brien was at the helm. And we don't see Ensign Pips. We actually see a Lieutenant Pips there, so I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, the 4 people of the away team are beamed aboard this mysterious ship. And Riker and Tasha go one way, and the 2 security men go another way. And as they're exploring, Tasha hears this crash and bang, and they go racing to see what's that all about. And of course, meanwhile, aboard the Enterprise, Deanna's freaking out, saying there's, bad vibes, and she's strongly suggesting to Picard that they get beamed back. But Picard assures her that, they can handle it. It's no problem. There's no reason yet to be so hasty. Let them explore a little more. And it turns out that the crash bang that Tasha and Riker heard were the 2 security men basically knocked out. And while they're checking that out, Riker himself gets attacked by some unseen and invisible assailant, which is very odd. Nothing to be seen, just attacked by some unknown force. But once this unknown force recognizes Tasha, it sort of decloaks, and they were going to stay cloaked. Apparently, whoever this is was going to stay cloaked, but because it recognized Tasha and called her, quote, an old friend, whatever that means, he uncloaked. And of course, at this point, they realize that things are out of hand aboard the Enterprise. So Picard commands that the away team get beamed up. So there's the sound effect, as they get beamed back onto the ship, away from this mysterious assailant. And back on board the Enterprise, we have the 2 security men. We've got Riker and Tasha. Riker and the 2 security guys are kind of out of sorts, knocked out with bumps and bruises. But Tasha is just a gibbering idiot at this point. She's like in shock. She's freaked out. Even Deanna can't reach her psychically, She's just in bad shape, basically, and freaked out that this thing has found her. This old friend of hers has finally found her. So while all this is going on the bridge, to Picard's horror, who should appear? But of course, Q. And Q is in his usual theatrics, dressed as some captain from days gone by. And of course, Picard thinks Q has something to do with all of this. And while that's going on, the mysterious ship suddenly fires on the Enterprise. Comes to life. 3 blasts. Thoom, kroom, choom. Blasting the Enterprise. There's the bridge shaking. And of course, Q is trying to instigate a fight. So Q keeps on saying to Picard, well, why don't you attack? Fight back. Prove yourself. You're being attacked, so fight back. And Picard basically says he's the captain of the ship, and Q should leave them alone, and he'll decide when the right time is to attack, and this, that, and the next thing. And he tells Q to leave. Turns out that the civilian portion of the ship has been damaged. So immediately Picard recognizes the danger. So he orders a saucer separation, basically, to protect the civilians. So he orders his entire, basically, senior bridge officers to the battle bridge down in the Star Drive section, because he's going to separate the saucer from the Star Drive section so he can deal with this mysterious ship. And he wants to separate the ship before firing, to prevent any harm to the civilians. So he orders the civilians to their cabins, and of course, down they go to the battle bridge, and we have saucer separation. And as soon as the saucer is separated, Picard orders the photon torpedoes to fire on that mysterious ship. So they blast it. And with very little effort, with a few blasts on the photon torpedo, they cripple the ship. But on that mysterious ship, something's going on with the transporter, and you can see that a figure has transported off the crippled ship and is heading toward the saucer section of the Enterprise, which, if you remember, is where Tasha is. So, aboard the saucer section, we see something beginning to materialize in the hallway, and of course, boy genius Wesley here happens to be at the right place at the right time, and he notices that something is materializing. He immediately runs to tell somebody what's going on. And as he approaches his mom, saying, look, something's boarding the Enterprise. It ain't good. So he realizes something's wrong. But Tasha, in a state of panic, also realizes something's wrong, that, she's been found out. They found her and they're hunting her. Deanna psychically sort of picks up that something's wrong, that this thing is after Tasha in some way. And basically, the saucer section is under siege by this mysterious force that's suddenly beamed aboard and is on the hunt for Tasha Yar. But meanwhile, the star drive section, as we know, has crippled this mysterious ship. And Q now says, well, look, you've managed to cripple the ship. Why don't you just finish it off, That's what you should do. They're weak. Blast them before they get you. And Picard refuses to do that, and he instigates, he gets Q at it, saying, well, this is how you think. You're the one that's aggressive, and you want us to attack. It reflects how you think more than it does us humans. So Q gets ticked off and blasts Picard, thus proving Picard's point, really. And meanwhile, while they're kind of arguing about Q's involvement in all of this, they get a message from 4 mysterious figures from the ship saying that they don't know how to operate it. They didn't want to fight, and they appear to be human. Turns out they are human, as far as they can tell. And I guess they figure Q has pitted these 2 groups of humans against each other. These 4 mysterious humans against the Federation, And that this is one of Q's weird tests trials, that he puts humanity under occasionally. So, of course, they accuse Q of having involvement in all of this and that it's all his fault. Picard beams the 4 humans aboard, and the humans, when they see Q, they say, oh, well, there you are. You said, to Q that Q was supposed to help them out, and that they'd be victorious if they listened to Q. And it turns out now Q's with the other team, So it's very mysterious. Both groups of people are freaked out that sort of Q's involved in all this and that he's been telling both of them to be aggressive, pitting one against the other. So it's very strange. And Q says, oh, you failed this test, and once again, you humans suck, and you guys don't know what's going on. And meanwhile, Geordi and Data come to the realization that while all this is going on, the saucer section has completely disappeared from space, basically. So they bring it to Picard's attention. He says Q probably had something to do with the vanish of the saucer section, but Q denies it. And this is where we end this issue, with the vanish of the saucer section and these mysterious 4 humanoids on the battle bridge, and meanwhile, somewhere in the saucer section, Tasha is being hunted by this mysterious figure that's come aboard. So starts issue 1, which is actually issue 3, the beginning of a 4-part series where, once again, it doesn't take long for Q to show up in the comic books. So, we'll see what happens next time. But for now, we can contemplate what's going on aboard the Enterprise and the Star Drive section now. Anyway, stay tuned for part 2.